Hi, today we're going to be tying a March brown wet fly. And the reason I like March brown wets is that they're very effective at catching fish when the March browns are hatching. So, and this fly I tie, and when I'm tying a lot of guide flies and trying to crank out some flies and make some durable flies, I like this wet fly. It uses a hen neck for the wing rather than a feather wing. I find they're very durable and they're quick and easy to tie. So I'm going to take some bronze mallard. So I just took a bronze mallard feather, just ripped off a few strands. I've got about 3 to 5 strands, and I'm going to tie those in for my tail. And they should be about the length of the hook shank, or maybe a touch shorter. And you can just break those off. And then for our rib, we're going to use a gold tinsel. Now this is a medium in flat. So I'm going to cut this on an angle, okay? And that's going to make it easier to tie in. Now, if you look at a March brown from underneath, they're kind of a yellow, pale yellow underbelly. And that's where I think this gold really comes into play. It really represents that well, and it kind of gives you a little glimmer, and it makes the fly stand out, and I think the fish kind of are attracted to it. It seems to work well. And again, you can use small on that flat tinsel if you want, rather than the medium, show more dubbing. So the dubbing I'm using is kind of a squirrel dubbing. It's got some antron in it, almost like some gold antron. This is just an older pack I had laying around, but there's various squirrel dubbings out there that you can use. And you can use other dubbings. Something a little spiky is good, but I find squirrel's nice because you got some guard hairs hanging out of it. And I'm just going to put it on, and I'm going to get it tight up in the beginning here, and then don't worry about it being a little looser as you go down. We're going to tighten that up there. And we're just going to start our body. Tighten that as we go a little bit. You can see once I got that locked in, I can kind of pull down and twist on it. Okay, and I'm just going to build a little bit of a taper. Get some more dubbing on there. And I want to dub just about, leave about a hook eye. You don't need a lot of room up here for this fly. You can kind of just pull it that a little bit and preen that out a little bit. You can use a dubbing brush if you want. And then we're going to take our tinsel, and we should get about 5 turns to the body. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that should get tied off underneath. And then we're going to use a Partridge hackle. And you can select one of these brown kind of speckled ones. You could go with one of these ones that have some black at the base, depending on what shade you want, what size you want. So you want the hackle to be maybe about 3/4 the length of the hook shank. So I'm going to select one of these. Let's take a little bit bigger one. So I'm just going to come in and get a little bit bigger one. All right. So now when you strip these, you want to strip the heavy stuff off first. You see how I'm kind of holding up on the heavy part of the stem and stripping that first, rather than just grabbing it here and trying to strip it, because that's how you often break it. When you got a lot of stuff here, that when there's a lot of it, what happens is when you go to pull it here is that this stuff resists and it breaks the stem. But if you get that out of the way first, then as you come up, you're much less likely to break the stem. Okay, so we're going to preen that off, and then we're going to just hold this by the very tip and just pull that back. Now, what I'll typically do is just cut that, leave a little nub to tie in, and I'll just tie that in right here. I'll catch that. And I tied that in with the cup facing the fly, so that when I stand that up, that cup's back, and I'm just going to fold it. And I should get about 2 turns of this. 2 turns. And then I'm going to take a hen neck. And hen necks are really handy to have in various colors. They come in, you know, tans and gingers and browns and duns and all different shades. And you can do mayfly wings, and you can do caddis wings, and you can do soft hackles. So they're very handy to have. And I've selected a couple feathers already off the neck. What I'm doing is I'm taking a couple feathers towards the bottom of the neck where they're smaller. So you got to look at your necks, look at the size of the feathers, the shape of the feathers when you purchase your neck. Try to find something. You can see there how that's kind of a nice wing shape. It's got a little bit of a point, but at the same time a little bit of a round to it. Not overly wide. Now March Browns have a big wing, so if they're a little large, you know, it's not too bad. You just don't want them to be too big. If they're, one thing with tying this type of a wing in, if they're really broad, they're going to really want to kick up in the air. So this will lay down better if it's a little bit more narrow. And you want this to be a little bit longer than the hook shank. I take a little bit more off. So, and I've got these cupped together, facing each other. So there's 2 feathers cupped together. I'm just going to do a couple loose wraps here. And just make sure that they stand upright. And what I can do is take those stems and actually fold them back so that they're locked in good and they're not going to pull out on me. And then I'll just finish a nice head. And so I like these flies because you can fish them a lot of different ways. You could take some grease and you could gink your wing and float that like an emerger. You can fish it like a wet fly. I like to cast them out. Either do like a reach cast as if you're fishing a dry fly with an upstream reach cast. What that'll do is as you drop your rod into the swing, it'll allow a little bit of slack, let that fly sink just a little bit before it starts to swing. Sometimes if the fish are real active on the surface, don't even do that. Just cast it out and let it swing without letting it fall in the water column at all. But a very effective fly, really good to have in your box during the March Browns. Again, you can fish them multiple ways. I would recommend tying some and getting ready for next year. Tight lines, everybody. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.